So here I'm going to do kind of maybe more of a finished figure drawing. The people have drapery on them, so I'm using this black and white image as my guide, and I'm going to try to get the two people in this drawing. I'm going to start out in pencil and then move into charcoal. So I'm going to start with the woman who's kneeling down. So I'm starting in the same way. I'm thinking maybe I should raise this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start in the same way. So I'm doing a line of action, be a little bit more over here. I'm not pressing hard with my pencil. I'm doing a line from hip to hip and a line from shoulder to shoulder. So remember, you need to get those two diagonals in your drawing first. And her head is kind of coming forward, so it looks lower than it should be because it's coming towards us. Then I'm going to do a line. Actually, I'm going to do a shape for the torso. No, I'm drawing slowly here because I'm not doing it quick. I'm trying to create a finished drawing. A shape for the hips. Then her legs are bent, but they're under drapery. So I'm doing a shape for the legs. This is on gray paper. And another shape. So that's where her other knee is. The legs are under drapery, but I can kind of see them, so I'm kind of blocking them in. So I'm just seeing where the arm is, and I feel that I feel like this whole area is foreshortened, sorry. So I feel like I made this too long. So I feel like it would be more like this, and her head would be even lower. Okay. Then I'm going to kind of figure out where this arm would be. And it comes over the legs right here. And then here, this arm comes out from here over to up here. And I'm actually going to try to block her in a little bit more before I put in the other figures. So I'm pressing a little bit harder. So her torso seems shorter or is foreshortened because it's leaning towards us. So it's going to, before I try to put in any shading, I'm going to want to try to get this correct. This is not, the angle is a little bit different. So you're going to be noticing things that you're changing all the time. Just making a shape for her hand right now. And seeing where her head is. That's kind of her hairstyle, but that needs work. But I'm just trying to get a generalized kind of shape of her in here. So I'm still working with, even though I'm putting in kind of detailed parts of the fabric and stuff, I'm still generally working with big shapes. I'm not really doing shading. I'm not doing like detail work. I'm getting major shapes in here and I'm seeing if they look good together. And you may have to move stuff around. You know, it's not going to come out. If you notice that something should be somewhere else in relation to something else, like for instance, if you notice an elbow should be moved because it's not in the correct relationship to the knee, then you just erase it and move it. That's just a part of the process. There's more fabric. There's more fabric right here. So this is going to be moved around as well, but it's just one layer to kind of help me get the correct, you know, bearings about where this drawing is going to go. It's starting to look more like a figure. I mean, it's not detailed or anything, but so I made the knees too long when I started. They are not that far out. And those are the little things that you're going to have to start to notice. Once you notice those things, then you know you're doing something right. Okay, I mean, I think that's a pretty good start. That needs a lot more work, but I'm going to erase kind of the lines underneath, get them out of here. All right, so now I'm looking at the man behind her. So there's a man behind her and we're seeing his back. I'm looking for where their heads are in relation to each other. So I'm thinking his head is about here and the line of action for his body is kind of going down here like this. Okay. There's a line from shoulder to shoulder, which is it's a very steep diagonal. And his head is at an angle. And I may have to move this, but I'm just kind of getting started. Then you're seeing his arm come down here and here. So let me kind of make a shape for the torso. And hips are about here. And we're just seeing some drapery come down here. Okay, but we are seeing his arm. And there's a shape right here. And a shape right here. And then the hand comes down. So you're wanting to look at the angles of everything. Like, what's the relationship of this angle to this angle to this angle? And that's kind of how you're starting. Okay. I feel happy with that as a starting point. So I'm actually going to try to kind of outline him. And I'm looking, where does his fabric hit her arm? It's at about the elbow. That's how I'm figuring out where this line goes. I'm going to do shading, but that's probably going to be I'm probably going to do that in a second video. And I'm just trying to see if I think this looks right. This may be a bit narrower. Okay. So now I'm putting kind of a shape to his head. We're seeing a tiny little sliver of his neck right here. Just get rid of a few more of these lines inside. All right, so there's 3 figures here. Then there's he has another arm, but it's behind this figure. So his hand is on like a child that's right here. Their head is about here. So this is a smaller person, right? Because they're young. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? The child looks like they are praying. So I feel like this may need to come out more. But I'm just trying to get everything in here. Okay. So this is my starting point for the drawing, and I do need to make some corrections. So I'm going to go over it with another layer of line and try to get it right. Some things are not quite, they seem like they're a bit out of proportion. Okay, so I'm going to start again. I'm pressing a little bit harder, but again, I'm going to go into this drawing with charcoal, so I don't want too much of the pencil in it, but I do want kind of a nice contour that's correct, if you will. She's wearing a headband. Her hair is coming out over here. You can put as much or as little detail as you want into your drawing. Trying to get the nose. May come out a little bit more. It's kind of what we're seeing of the eye. And what's bothering me about this? The chin is too big. Remember, I have a whole nother layer of correction to make with the charcoal pencil, but I'm just trying to get stuff in the right place right now. All right. I feel like her clothes I made them kind of too small. I feel like they're taking up a little bit more space than I had them take up. So I'm kind of trying to make them a bit fatter. Okay. Now a little bit more adjustments over here. This is actually coming over here and touching her clothes. And this is going to come out. Well, no, that actually looks about right. Maybe this is higher. There we go. And remember, the best way to do this is actually with a model, but I don't have a model here, so I'm just using photograph. You should practice with photograph first. It's very helpful. And then the model's a little bit harder because it's in 3 dimensions instead of 2 dimensions. I'm making her arm a little bit fatter. Okay. I'm using the 4B pencil, but I mean, any kind of pencil will be fine. I mostly chose a darker pencil so you could see it. So this is fabric and it has folds in it. I'll probably leave the folds for the charcoal, but I just wanted to get this on here first. When I stop talking, I'm just focusing on the drawing. I keep seeing little things that need to be changed. So this is going to come down more. And here. Okay, let me look at her hand. It's kind of bending and we're not seeing all of it. Okay. I'm bringing her hair up. All right, so I'm going to take a look at this person here. Just getting some of the details that in the contour that I didn't have before. It's not perfect. I'm just moving the outline. You're constantly moving things. There we go. All right. Here's this hand. One, two. That's just a very juvenile hand. It needs work. And I'm kind of moving this figure as well. Like this waistline was too low. Trying to get the right shape for the head. And this person here, let me erase that. Let me try to get his head right. Is wearing a cap. That's some of the fabric. Kind of seeing a bit of his face over here. And then I'm just looking at this head one one more second, and there's a hand here, an arm. It's kind of behind this head, and then this hand. All right, so that's my starting point. I'm going to stop here and come back and do a layer with charcoal and shading. I'm going to enhance this drawing, and I'm going to add some shading to it. So I'm going to be looking for darks and lights and trying to do a little bit of blending. I'm thinking to myself, since this is so small, do I want to use charcoal pencil or colored pencil? So I believe I'm going to start in colored pencil for a minute, and then I may add charcoal over it just because it's very delicate. And I'm just going to block in some areas of dark. So same thing that we were doing when we were shading the objects, but here it's just a little bit more detailed and delicate. The fabric has folds in it, so that's a lot, but I'm just going to try to get major areas of dark first and then light. I don't know. I'm going to try. Yeah, I can do the charcoal over the colored pencil. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to start. That was darker, so I wanted to put that in. Okay, I'm going to start with a big, I'm going to look at this person right here. So there's a big I'm just looking for shapes or indentations in the fabric that are darker. And again, I'm looking at a picture. You can start out with pictures, and then later on you can move to the model, which would be having a person pose for you or going to a life drawing class, which I recommend. But if you have a friend that can sit still for you for a long period of time, or sit still for you and then you take a photograph of them. Okay, that's just an area of dark. So, I mean, again, you start out with big areas and you work into more detail, like which part of this is dark or which part of it is lighter, where is there a highlight. But I'm just getting in major areas to help me get started. I haven't put in lights yet, so I'm starting with darks, then I'm going to move to lights, and then I'm going to try to blend. I'm not blending right now because I just want to get some basic stuff on the page just because there's so much variation in the shading. So this is going to take me quite some time. I'm just trying to find major shapes of dark, and then I'm going to move into light. And I'll probably make that one video and then another video with the blending. If you do it like this, the shading is not going to seem so overwhelming. And a big shape here. This definitely needs adjusting. This is a starting point for the shaping. Okay, now I'm going to look at her dress. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to look at the cap because there's kind of an area that's a little bit darker here. I'm just outlining it. You can outline it as a shape. So when you do these drawings, you want to set aside quite a bit of time. I mean, a couple hours at least. And I'm kind of trying to speed it up because I know you guys don't have like hours and hours to watch a video, but the more time, the better. Okay, I'm going to take a look at her dress and her arm. So this part of her arm is kind of darker, but I'm trying not to make it as dark as his cloak. It looks very, I mean, it looks very blocky. I guess that's a word for it right now. So it needs a lot of work. This is just an initial kind of step. And I'm going to leave her face and her hair till later, but this part of her neck is kind of dark. This part of her dress is darker. take some light over here. So there's going to be a lot of light over here, and I'm going to look at this figure. So this part of the dress is darker. And this part is lighter. This part of the arm I forgot. So you're just working around the image. I mean, other people probably do it differently. I'm a person that I really like working around the image. Like some people, some artists might just like focus on her head and like do every shading perfectly and then move to the cloak. But since I think that you do a better piece of artwork when you're looking at things in relation to each other, I try to block in areas on the whole drawing and then put in detail on the whole drawing, if that makes sense. All right, that's a starting point. And now I'm going to get the white colored pencil because not only are there shadows, but there's highlights. And the highlights are pretty detailed. That's showing up pretty good. I'm just trying to see if it shows up over the black. Not really. So this shadow may need to be made smaller. Remember, you don't have to have a super detailed drawing to have it be good. I mean, if that's what you want, then by all means, that's what you should do. But the drawings that don't have a lot of detail can also be considered excellent drawings. I'm trying to blend the white into areas of the paper. Like, for example, if it's getting darker right here, which it is, I'm trying to kind of ease up on the white and have it blend into the gray. There's going to be also folds and creases, which I haven't put in yet. Starting to look a little bit better. Okay, so let's see. This side of her face is light, and then the other side is dark. There's a highlight here on her neck. So I'm doing some highlight work, but then I also need to come back in and do some line work. And then I need to do some blending work. I mean, you could leave it just like this, is what I'm trying to say. It was what I was trying to say before, right? If you like it. But I'm going to try to make it kind of detailed. I don't know how much though. I'm just looking for generalized areas of light and dark right now. And then I'm going to try to do another layer where I kind of refine it. When I'm stopping, I'm kind of looking at it and just assessing, like, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed. But actually, I think she looks pretty good. This person is too blocky. It needs a lot more work. This part needs to be darker. So this is, again, something you need to practice. It may not come out perfect on the first time. And that's just a part of the drawing process. So you need to practice, practice, practice. All right, I'm happy with that for a first layer. I'm actually going to come back in and do a little bit of line work before I try to blend. So this is kind of like a crease in the fabric. But the shading is kind of like getting rid of the lines, which I don't want to totally get rid of. So there's a lot of creases in the fabric. You're probably doing your own drawing, but if you want to put in all the creases, you can. If you don't, if it seems like it's too much, then you don't have to. I'm adding line and maybe a little extra dark shading where there's shading underneath the creases. So a drawing can be a mixture of line and value, if that makes sense. Trying to find the medium is that it's going to be the challenge. Or should I say this drawing is a mixture between line and value. Drawings could be a lot of other things besides that. But those are two major elements in this drawing that I'm trying to find like a happy mixture between. I'm trying to look at it to see if I think I'm making it worse or I'm making it better. You should always do that when you're drawing. Okay, so I'm going to get my white and bring in a little white right here. Because sometimes you can start something like a layer of lines and it will end up making the whole thing look worse. So you should always stop and take a look at it and assess if you think you're improving it or making it worse. That's a little like, I don't know, sharp angled. I guess that's the word I'm trying to find for me, but I'm going to keep going with it. I don't think I'm making it worse. I think I am making it better. So there's some areas where you're not seeing like perfectly, detail, right? So that's a balance you want to figure out in your drawing. Like, do you want everything to be in perfect detail, or do you want some areas to be like kind of not blurry or not have as much detail? So I'm gonna I know I'm working on her, but I feel like I need to work on this cloak right now because it's next to her. And I'm looking for folds. So I'm just kind of doing some line work right now, which is another layer of the drawing. That doesn't look that great. This guy is going to need a lot of work. You'll be able to identify things in your drawings that you think need a lot of work and things that you think are working well. I'm just defining right now. That needs a little blending there. I don't know. Alrighty, let's see. Let's look at this arm for a second. You'll do things that you like and things that you don't like while you're drawing. And you'll do things that you want to change, and that's normal. Maybe those lines are too dark. Well, I'll figure that out later. So this is like, it looks like a wool hat with some ridges. All right, so I'm going to look at the arm. I'm just kind of defining still. Those lines seem too dark. You could also do this with a regular pencil, like a graphite. And I need to work here, so I'm going to look at this figure. So this figure has some creases in their outfit as well. Which need some shading to enhance. But I'm just trying to get kind of major lines in first. I'm going to switch to a regular pencil for a second because the hand is so tiny. And I'm going to come in here with the regular pencil as well. I'm just finding major creases, and there's also some minor creases. Okay, I'm gonna stop here and then restart to define a little bit more. These lines are too black, so I'm going to stop and restart and then kind of do a final layer. Okay, so I'm going to enhance here. So I'm actually going to bring in the charcoal pencils and see what I can do. So I'm going to start with black. I'm trying to be careful about not getting too messy. I'm just thinking to myself, like this is a fold in the fabric, but it's too light here, so I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna fix that. So I'm gonna come down here. So again, when I'm not talking, I'm just focusing on the drawing. So I'm just finding areas of light and dark. I don't know. Something's bothering me about this figure, but I'm just going to keep going until I figure out what it is. Well, I'm going to come in. I'm going to get my white charcoal pencil and actually I'm going to get a gray. Let me see how this looks. I'm just assessing what I need to do. So there's some shading in here, but I don't want it to be too dark. So I'm using the gray colored pencil. I could also use graphite or a regular pencil. Because like her dress is pretty light, so I don't know if I like that, but I'm just kind of seeing how it looks. I wanted to make a more subtle shading. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm getting my regular pencil and I'm going to take a look at her hair. There's some delicate shading on the hair. I'm putting in the lights with the white colored pencil. And this is the headband. These are like braids or I don't know, some sort of hairdo that she has. But they have areas of light and dark on them. Okay, let's take a look at the face. I'm just kind of defining it. And it's darker right here, but I don't want it to be too dark because I want this black to stand out, right? That's next to her face. I'm going to do some shading with the graphite. So again, here I kind of used a light gray pencil, but it wasn't really giving me the effect that I wanted. I don't want to use black because it's lighter than the rest of the drawing, so I'm using a graphite pencil. Here I'm leaving the gray paper as the highlight because there's a light highlight, but this part is in shadow. So it's not as light. As you can see, you could spend a lot of time on this, perfecting it. And I'm going to come over here and use the pencil over the gray colored pencil. Whoops, I just smeared that. Oh well, I'm going to leave that for now. Okay. So, like, if you're using a photograph or a drawing, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. I mean, if that's your goal, that's fine. But you are trying to get somewhat of a realistic figure. But I mean, just do your best and practice based on how far you want to go. I mean, I would do a lot of these if you're just beginning. But again, you can decide how much detail you want. Okay. Since I did kind of have neglected this arm over here. All right. Now I'm going to take a look at this figure. I'm still using the regular pencil. I'm just enhancing these creases, like adding kind of, so they don't look just like a line. So there's shading coming out of them. This is, I guess, a child that's also wearing some sort of hat like this. I'm just taking a step back and looking at it and seeing what I think I need to change. There can be a point where you overdo a drawing, so you start messing with it and you mess with it too much, so you kind of ruin it. So, I mean, there's a point to know when you should stop. And I do like one thing that I don't like about this figure needs some more work. But I don't like this figure. It's too light and dark. Like the lights are too light and the darks are too dark. So let me kind of try to come in with the regular pencil and see if I can kind of fix this. Like these are lighter areas than the dark, but they're not as light as the paper. So I'm trying to darken them. The highlight is too light. In general, this figure is the darkest figure. There is some light at the top. But the areas that I left pretty light are kind of too light. That's what I wanted to change. Let me see. I'm taking a look at it. Darkening in that area, which is part of his cloak. And then this area is lighter. I'm just looking for small things that I may need to change. So as you can see, you could do a lot of layers of this. That would take a lot of time to really get it looking really nice. I don't like how I made this a shape, which is a good way to start, but it doesn't look like shading, so I'm trying to erase part of it. And I'm going to come in again with the white colored pencil. And just try to enhance some areas of light. I'm going to try out the white charcoal pencil. It's not really showing up that well. I mean, I think I've done as much as I can on this drawing. I don't know. I think this figure looks good. These two figures maybe need a little bit of work, but I don't want to mess it up, so I'm going to stop here.